delighted and honored to be standing in front of you today as we introduce the Miley Sports Broadcast Collection, which has been generously donated to the Media School at Indiana University by Mr. John Miley, who is with us in attendance today alongside many of his family and close friends. This is a momentous occasion for sports media here at Indiana University and the Media School as a whole, as I believe this to be the most comprehensive sports broadcasting archive that exists in the United States and essentially represents the recorded history of sports broadcasting in the United States since it started over 100 years ago. Our friends at WTIU, WFIU, over in the corner over there, have produced an excellent 30-minute documentary that showcases the collection and Mr. Miley and all of the work that went into making it happen. We're going to start off with a trailer from that documentary. We'll go ahead and play that now.
One of my suggestions was, let me check with John Miley.
The thing that really got me started was the California Northwestern Rose Bowl in, I believe, 1949.
John really wanted to find a home for the collection, and we wanted to host the collection.
That documentary is now available to view online, and we've actually got some flyers with a QR code that will take you directly to that if you want to pick one up on your way out. This has been a wonderful experience over the course of the last year plus, getting to know John and his family and the many people who care deeply about the broadcast archive and making sure that it had a home in perpetuity. And we couldn't be happier that John and his family elected to allow us to bring it here to Indiana. One of the key figures who's been instrumental in making this happen is a gentleman who was just in that clip that you saw, Mr. Bob Costas. Bob couldn't be here today, but he recorded a video that we're going to play now to commemorate this moment. So we'll go ahead and play that at this point. Thank you, Katie.
I have known John Miley for nearly half a century. We met in 1976. I was a young broadcaster at KMOX in St. Louis, the flagship station of the Cardinals. And during the off-season, I had the idea of doing a series of retrospectives about their three pennant-winning teams of the 1960s, complete with all the radio play-by-play of Harry Carey and Jack Buck as they got to the World Series. Well, John Miley was listening on those Saturday and Sunday afternoons, and he called me, just took a flyer and called the station, and he got me in the sports office. And he told me of his interest in collecting sports broadcasts, and told me that his collection, even 48 years ago, was pretty extensive. And so I drove the 3 hours or whatever it was to Evansville to visit him and his wife, Carol. He had prepared me by saying, you know, you're going to be surprised at how much I've got. I wasn't surprised. I was astonished, even then. And through the years, of course, that collection has only grown and grown to where this is not an overstatement. There is no sports Hall of Fame, not in Cooperstown, not in Canton, not in Springfield or anywhere else. There is no network that has within its files as much worthwhile audio that traces the history of sports, but also the history of the craft of sports broadcasting. Nothing that approaches what John Miley has. A few years later, after we first met in the mid-70s, I found myself at NBC, and later HBO and the Major League Baseball Network. And I think I may have been the first person who introduced the network world to John Miley. because when we were putting together documentaries or flashback type shows, and they were searching for something and they didn't have it, I said, I got a guy. I know a guy in Evansville, Indiana. He may have it. And when I contacted my friend John, he never wanted to be paid for what he had. He wanted to trade it for something he didn't have. Say, John, you got game 2 of the 1955 World Series? Yeah, I got it right here. Does NBC have the 1959 Rose Bowl? We'll work a swap. He was never in it for profit, or for that matter, for fame. Although a bit of fame did come his way because his collection was so extraordinary, and he was part of so many great broadcasts. It would show up on the credits, thanks to the Miley collection. My producers and I are deeply indebted to him, not only for how meticulously he archived all of it, not only for the breadth and scope of what he put together, but also for his friendship. And now he began to think of this section, which isn't history of sport. As I said, a media school is interested in the following. It truly is a remarkable history of the craft of sports broadcasting. Well, where should that reside? And he asked me. All things being even roughly equal, I might have leaned toward my alma mater, Syracuse. After all, the Newhouse School is pretty much acclaimed. On the other hand, Evansville is much closer to Bloomington. And the media school at Indiana is top-notch as well. In fact, I had a niece who graduated from the media school about a year ago, and I got to know Galen and become familiar with just how good the media school is. And I knew that they would take good care of it, that they would respect and appreciate what it represents, and that John Miley could feel secure that his life's work would be in good hands. So that's what the ceremony today is about. A tip of the cap to John Miley, an extraordinary man. To him and his wife Carol and their wonderful family, my appreciation and congratulations. This is a wonderful day. Generations yet to come will benefit from this. Broadcast students interested in the craft will benefit from it. And those putting together documentaries and programs about the history of sports will lean now on the University of Indiana and the Miley collection. This is a great day. Best to you all.
I appreciate Bob for taking the time to send this. And I'll note, Bob does not undersell the size of the collection, over 44,000 broadcasts. And one thing that I did want to note is that as we digitize this archive completely and make it available to students and researchers for generations to come, we do need support to help do that as we move forward. We've established the John Miley Collection Fund, which will be supporting the digitization efforts and the promotional efforts around this broadcast archive to ensure that it is given the care that it deserves over the course of future generations. And I'd like to thank Sam Elliott for making that first donation to the fund. We really greatly appreciate his generosity in getting that started. We will have a link available in the live stream comments and also in the press release related to this, where if you're interested in supporting the collection fund, you can donate as well. Every little bit counts. As we have a long way to go in digitizing all 44,000 broadcasts, but we're slowly making progress. We do have a listening room on the basement level of this facility, and after the ceremony proper is over, you can come down and see. This is where people will be able to access the collection in person, but the collection is going to be designed to be accessed online by researchers here in Indiana and guest researchers from around the country. We look forward to getting that launched here over the coming months. I'm going to stop talking now because I want you to hear it from the man himself, as we are so honored and thankful to John for putting this collection together and taking such good care of it over time and entrusting it to us here at Indiana University. We look forward to working with him and his family over the coming years. John, thank you, and I'll go ahead and bring you up here to say a few words.
I'm going to start off by saying that I had no idea what this was going to be about today. Well, I knew what it was going to be about, but I had no idea what I was going to be confronted with. And one thing I want to say, Don Fisher just came up to me, and he said he may have to leave early. And I was going to say anyway, anybody who finishes listening to me before I finish talking to you can leave if you want to. So don't worry about it. And Don Fisher is here today. Don is one of my closest friends. He's a very close friend. We've been known each other for years and years. And I consider him to be, you here in Indiana are so lucky to have him doing the play-by-play. And this year, he even is going to be excited about football. Can you believe that? I can't wait to see. I looked at the schedule, and it looks like he may only lose one more game. But who knows how many games that they will lose? But they appear to be a really good team. If you saw the UCLA game, they did a wonderful job. What I'd like to do is I'd like to take questions. I tried that in a class a few minutes ago, and hardly anybody had a question. So I don't know what I want to do and how I want to handle this. But Gail, who are you?
I'm here.
Galen,
Have a crab mic.
you let me know if I talk too long, and I'll let you know if I need your help.
You got it.
Okay. All right. I hope some of you do have questions. If you don't, think about a question, please, because I have a much better feeling if I'm talking to somebody about something they want to know about rather than what I want to tell them. So I would love to field questions if you've got any. Two things I want to do before I start the question end of it. I want to give thanks, and I also want to tell everybody here. I wouldn't say exactly how I'm up here and you're out there today, but I think I will blueprint you how it happened, and I think you'll be astounded at the way it did happen. Let's start off with thanks. The first thanks I want to give is the Lord above. He put me here on earth, and he put an unbelievable amount of people around me so that they would help me carry me through my life. Everybody out here is successful to an extent, but not any of you are successful unless you've got people that the Lord has put around you to lead you through life. Starts with mom and dad, and then goes on. And I'm so appreciative of all the things he's done for me, and I can't tell you the number of blessings he's given me. Get off to I didn't intend to say this, but I am going to say it. Let's just say how I got it. Bill Madden, who was a writer for the Sporting News, which used to be the baseball paper of the world back in the 70s and 80s, and he now is in the Baseball Hall of Fame as a writer, so he knows what he's doing. He writes for a New York newspaper. He also wrote for the Sporting News. He wrote an article, wrote a column every week entitled Collecting Memories, which is what I'm doing. I'm collecting memories. And so I decided I would call him. A local sports writer by the name of Collins had written something in the Evansville paper in 1977 early, and he did a wonderful job of writing it up. And so I called Bill Madden, and we talked for 45 minutes on the phone. And at the end of our talk, he said, "John, I would like to do an article on you." And I sent him the copy that I had of the local one, so he'd have some idea of what I was talking about. And so at the end of the article, I had two people taking for me at the time. One was a preacher in North Carolina, and the other was whatever he did in Dallas. I got both those people recommended to both those people from some collectors that I did business with or trading with, and they did a wonderful job taking for me. And I told him about that, and it's in the story. So at the end of the story, he says, "There you have it, folks." He says, "If you want to join John Miley's tape network, contact him at Post Office Box 5103, Evansville, Indiana, 47715. I'm not there anymore, by the way, so don't copy that down. So I had no no idea he was going to do that. To me, two people out there taking for me, not a tape network, but to him it was. And I got letters from all over the United States. I must have had 50 to 75 letters the next week, including a couple from overseas. Fortunately, I didn't know anything about overseas, so I just said no thank you to them. But I contacted everyone that sent me a letter. And I sent them a list of a form where they could fill out what games they could get, what teams they could get, what sports they could get, and so forth. So I know how to handle their future and my future. And one person wrote by the name of George Van Loan. George Van Loan was one of the person to start with, but he lived in Florida at the time, and saved some Florida stuff for me. And then he moved to Colorado and saved a bunch of Colorado stuff. I looked the other day to see how many things I had of his. Of that 44,560 of them were from him. And listen to this. He'd been blind since birth. Can you imagine doing ball games on a tape recorder, blind since birth, and did a wonderful job. He hardly ever made a mistake. In fact, I don't remember any mistake that he did make. That's the kind of person. Luckily, I've had people that like me, yes, but they care about me. And he absolutely cared about me. And almost everybody that I know that have helped me down through life have done that too. So it was a wonderful situation there. I've given the thanks to the Lord, but I want to give thanks to some people out here. I hate to mention names because I'll leave some names out. But let's start off with Dick Ramin. Where are you, Dick? There you are, Dick Ramin and his daughter are here. His daughter's son, is it? Yeah, his son that plays for Indiana, number 34.
No, that's Mike.
That's what?
That's Mike Blake's son.
Okay, there you go. Oh, Mike. How many people here that are from Evansville know Mike, the name Mike Blake? He is the number one announcer in Evansville and has been ever since 1970. I met him in 1970. We've become very good friends. And one thing leads to another in my life that just is astounding as far as my life is concerned. Let's talk about Dick Ramin. When I first started in business, I didn't start the business until Ken Coleman, who was an announcer for the Boston Red Sox, told me one day, he said, "You got to share some of this stuff in your basement with the public." And I said, I don't have a license to do so. So he said, I'll take you to Major League Baseball. He took me to Major League Baseball and got me a license. Or actually, we got a license together. And so I started selling things, selling baseball, and then eventually football games, which I no longer do because I'm of the age that I am, and so I turned it over to somebody else. But it was first thing we did, was I wanted to go to Notre Dame and to see what we could do. I had a lot of Notre Dame stuff, and so I wanted to see if I could do a tape on Notre Dame. He went to Notre Dame. I didn't have the courage to do it myself. He went to Notre Dame and got them to okay me making a tape on Notre Dame. So now I got to go through my catalogs. I had over 1,000 pages of catalogs, typewritten. Well, Bob Costas saw a bunch of them when he came over to see me. And I had all these, I had two separate catalogs. Dick took one of them, and I took the other one. And we went through the catalogs. It took us 2 days to go through the catalogs to find out what we had on Notre Dame. We ended up with about 6 pages of the yellow pad, the big yellow pads, the 8.5 by 14 yellow pads, and when we were all through. And as it was, it turned out we missed a couple, by the way. But I had to go in there and take 30 highlights out of the 5 different pages that we had, or 6 pages we had. And so I made the tape. and they gave it away. They sold it at the bookstore in Notre Dame. Took us 2 days to go through those catalogs. Took us 2 full days to go through the catalogs. And when it became time for me to get a computer, and so we had to put all those pages into the computer. Can you imagine over 1,000 pages of typewritten single space? Part of it was even handwritten, and so I had to have somebody to do that for me. And I hired my first secretary, my name was Susan Vickery. She took all of that stuff and put it in the computer, and which is now all in there, obviously, and plus what I put in since. But it took her a year and a half to put all of my catalogs into the computer. That's how much stuff I have. And it has increased and increased and increased yearly. So Dick and she are 2 of the people who I really do appreciate in my life, being beside me and helping me out. Now let me tell you exactly how I got here. Guy by the name of Mark Browning, who's here, back there filming. Mark Browning, his father owned a funeral home in Evansville, and I was in a quarterback club a couple of years ago in Evansville, which, by the way, is the oldest quarterback club in existence in the United States. Anyway, I was at the quarterback club and sitting, watching and listening and all that kind of stuff. And he sneaks up beside me and he introduces himself. And I had never met him, and he had never met me, obviously. And the end result was, he told me, he said, he asked me, what are you going to do with your collection? And I said, well, I've already given part of it to the Library of Congress. My kids, when I pass away, probably will give the rest of it to the Library of Congress. He said, no. He said, you should not do that because it will not survive like it will if you put it in a university. So he had some friends, or actually the president had some friends at USI, University of Southern Indiana. He said, let me go out there and see if they might be interested in having it. And I was thinking to myself, what, I'm going to give this away? This is ridiculous. But the more I thought about it, and the more he talked to me, the more I said, you know what? This might be what I want. I have an article written about me in the New York Times back in 2005, and I told the guy, he said, can I write an article on your collection? I said, yeah. He said, but one thing I want you to do, in the article, I want you to say that I'm looking for a place for my collection before I pass away. And he did. He put that in there, along with a comment from you-know-who, Bob Costas. And so I got a couple calls from universities the next day, but I also got a call from the Library of Congress. And she was coming out to visit her sister who lived in Newburgh and who had been in a tornado a few years before that and had to build a new house, and she wanted to see her sister's new house. So she said, can I come out and see you on Saturday? I said, sure you can. So Saturday, they knocked on the door, she and her husband come in, and she said, now I only have an hour to spend here. She said, my sister says I'm here in town for her, not for me. So she said, give me an hour, and I said, okay, whatever you want to leave. An hour and a half later, she did leave, and she said, you know, John, I don't know that much about sports, but from what I see here, this has got to be something unbelievable. She said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send one of my sportsmen out to the Library of Congress to see you and to be with you for a day or two, just to see what he thinks of it. Well, he came out for 2 full days, and he was absolutely astounded by what we had. He went back and gave her a glowing report, and the end result was that I sold the Library of Congress, part of my collection prior to 1972 because of this copyright law. Baseball says you can't do anything with stuff after 72, but you can before 72. So they got so much before 72, and I thought enough about the collection and was still in business that, you know, I don't know that I can do without some of the stuff that I'm selling here. So I made copies of what I sold, and all they wanted was originals. So I had some games on both reel-to-reel and cassette and CD, all three ways. Reel-to-reel might have been the original, so they got the reel-to-reel, and I got to keep the others. So I still have probably most of the collection in my collection, and they've got part of it there too. So what I want to tell you, well, let's Mark Browning, as I said I go to university, and he did, and about a year later, we kept bartering back and forth. Ended up, USI didn't want it. USI did not want my collection. So I was talking to Lane Clark, who was a professor at Notre Dame, and he says, he said, USI, he says? And he was a former director of communications at U of E, Lane was, and so then said, what about Indiana? And I said, I don't know anybody in Indiana. He said, I do, got the name of Galen Claudio. I said, well, before you call him, let me check a couple of other people and see if I want you to do that. And so I did. I called Bob Costas, who, needless to say, you've heard him. We were tremendously close friends. I wanted his approval of me giving the collection away. And he gave a glowing plus. He said, do it. He said, I just met this guy by the name of Galen Claudio. I said, that's the same name I heard from Lane Clark. So, and he said, Galen is I think he even said it in this film, Galen is a wonderful, wonderful person. And he will not only take your collection, but he will do with it what you want done with it. And you need to do that. So I needed to contact one other person, who had the name of, let's see, Mark Cuban. Anybody ever heard of Mark Cuban? Well, he's also a friend of mine. I've done business with Mark when he was with broadcast.com. And so I called, I didn't call because I didn't know his number. I got his email address. I emailed him through the president of the Dallas Mavericks, who he owned at the time. And I wrote the president of Dallas Mavericks. What I wanted was his approval of me giving it to Indiana. And do you know that about an hour after I sent the email to the president of the Dallas Mavericks, I get an email from Mark Cuban saying, John, I understand what you want to do. I'm all in favor of it. So now I got the approval of the two people that I really needed. And now I've got approvals of 4 people, but I don't have the approval of Mark of Galen Claudio. I didn't know he would accept it. And so we got on a Zoom call, he and my son-in-law, my son, and Lynn, and myself. We got on a Zoom call, we spent about an hour, and at the end of the call, he says, you know, I'd like to come down and see you. And so he did, and he did several times. And the more he came, the more he liked it. And then he went back to his legal department and said, we got a legal approval of this. So I went to the legal department, and he said, now it's going to take a little while, the legal department, because they're busy doing other things, and it may take a month or 2 or 3 even. And I said, okay, well, however long it is, let's find out if they're willing to accept it legally. 3 days later, he called, he said, I just got approval, and we're making up a contract. We're going to come down, and we're going to have you sign it, so which I did, and the rest of it is history. The collection is here, thanks to those 5 people. However, talk about Mark Browning being the first one. You can go back and back and back at all that you've done and figure that, okay, that person didn't start it. No, Mark Browning didn't start. Mike Blake invited me to the quarterback club that day. If he had not invited me to the quarterback club, I may have never met Mark Browning. You just never know what's going to happen in this life. The thing that you need to do, if you can, is think about the number of people that have helped you and go home and praise the Lord and talk to that person or persons. Because I had a close friend of mine, was Jack Schrader, in grade school and high school, and he did so much for me. I talked to the Rotary Club one day about my collection, and I was going to play highlights of some things that I had. One thing I did was take my kids. I take my kids from age 5 until they went away to college. Every year, they came down to the basement, Thanksgiving time. They fussed with me, they had no ends about having to come down and be interviewed. I interviewed them with a standpoint that I would have something on tape for them to hear how they felt when they were 5, 6, 7, 8 about whether they were going to go to school, who were their friends, were they going to come, are they going to go to college, are they going to get married, are they going to have kids, etc. And they fussed so much about me, but I still brought them down. Years later, Karen, my daughter, comes to me and she says, "Would you take my kids too?" So I have a bunch of tapes of them too. When we were riding Major League Baseball one time, because of the problem that I had with them, I had my son and my son-in-law came down at Christmas time. Basically, I had written a 3-page typewritten letter in response to what they wanted to know, and I wanted their approval of it. Well, their approval was they had to cut out about a third of it. So they cut out about a third of it. During the third, they cut out. I told whoever was in the room, this happened now. Some of the stories I've told you, this happened now, and this happened, and whatever. And Dave, my son-in-law, comes out of the room. As we were going out the room, he said, "You've got to write some of this stuff down. These stories are not going to live past you." Is Wes Akers here? Yes. There's Wes Akers. He is principally the one in charge of the documentary that you'll see. The documentary can be gotten on either YouTube or on, you can search the Miley Collection on Google, and it comes up immediately. You can't miss it. You should hear what this guy Costa said on it. He is such a wonderful friend. But so it's been a wonderful life. Jack Schrader, as I said, was probably the best friend I ever had. I hate to say that in front of you people out here, because some people think you're the best friend. But you're close, but not quite there. And there's an article in today's paper, I don't know if it's in the paper, but I was certainly on the internet, on the Indianapolis Star, and it has a picture of me being I was on a high school basketball team, not the regular team, but we just had our games, etc. About 7 or 8 people in the picture, and she wanted to take that, and so there's a picture of me and a picture of Jack Schrader too. But anyway, that's I don't think I need to go any further with my story. I could tell stories from here to there, but I'd like to have questions. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, back here.
Mr. Miley, I'm a student broadcaster here at Indiana. We have a couple of them back here, so on behalf of all of us, first of all, thank you for your generosity and donating this archive to us. We really appreciate it. My question to you, what advice would you give people our age in life in general looking forward?
Advice to what?
Just in general, in life. What would be your takeaways that you should tell us to carry on?
Oh, that's a tough question. A good one, but a tough one. I suspect that the best thing you can do is just be you, and don't try to be somebody else. It's you're going into broadcasting. Don't try to be somebody else. Be yourself. You got a great voice, by the way, and I wish I had that voice when I was a kid. I did some broadcasting in Odessa, Texas, when I finally got the nerve to go get a job, and I announced for a year on KCK in Odessa, and I did it for nothing. I had to do it for nothing, because that's the only way I got in. And some of the best memories I've ever had is doing those ball games. And just be yourself, and you were in the room with us before, weren't you? And he said, you're going to be okay. I know that. and your voice is good, your smile is good, et cetera, et cetera. And thank you for the question. Any others? Mark?
We need to know your opinion. Just an example, Mickey Mantle. I know you have a little his taste, but how will this university search these things so it's user-friendly for the public and user-friendly for
I didn't get the question again.
if they use, just an example, Mickey Mantle. How would we search Mickey Mantle, 536 home runs? How many times he won the batting average or the batting crown? I mean, your other people here, but searching is going to be the most important thing. If you have 44,000 things, we need to search it multiple different ways. Home runs, base hits, and maybe you could help.
I think I can answer that question. I'll come back up to the video screen. What we're working on with the collection, first of all, John might have the most meticulous records I've ever seen of anything. Binder upon binder of information, and he has this wonderful software tracker that's allowed him to look up any of the broadcasts that you want. And he's got his own organizing system that goes well beyond what my brain can comprehend. What we're working on, our archivist, Josh Bennett and Kristen Wells, what we're doing is trying to put data into the collection on every broadcast where we can search by multiple different factors and not just search teams or players, but years, particular moments. And the idea is that we will be able to make it very easy to find whatever you're looking for. But part of the joy of this collection, John, is all of the things that you may find that you weren't looking for in the beginning because it is so vast.
As far as what he's talking about, my system is outdated, I guess, but it's wonderful, and he is making it better. But I can go in and search any. I was told about George that loan. I can go in and search. Got an announcer by the name of Cotroneo, Vince Cotroneo, who announces for the Oakland Athletics now. I met him when he was announcing for Houston as a youngster, and he got a copy of the Julius Hodgson's article that she wrote, a wonderful article about me, and just a minute. Okay. Yeah, and he said that somebody had sent him the article. I didn't send it to him. And somebody had sent him the article. And when he got the article, he said it's a great article, John, and so forth and so on. And I answered him, and that was about it. I didn't know what I had of Vince Cotroneo. I didn't think I had anything of Vince Cotroneo. I had 125 items of Vince Cotroneo in my collection. Just simply searching Vince Cotroneo. Any other questions?
So John, you probably listen to more sports broadcasts than anybody else in this room. Who are your favorite broadcasters? Let's not count Costas, but anyone else besides Costas.
What did you say?
Who are your favorite sports broadcasters?
Sports broadcasters?
Yeah, who's your favorite? Who did you love to listen to?
My favorite is Bill Stern. And probably 99% of the people in this room don't know who Bill Stern is, or was. And, I'm going to have to sit down. Yeah. You got it? Okay.
You can keep talking. This will be our last question. Okay.
Okay, I guess from there, Ted Husing and Harry Wismer were two of the ones that I remember listening to when I was a kid. By the way, I was a kid at one time. I went along. Don Fisher is certainly one of the best. He's featured prominently in the documentary that we're doing, that had been done by Wes Eichlers. I need to say, Wes, I need to tell him about that. But let's first go on with who were my favorite broadcasters. Vin Scully, of course, is one of the best and would be at the top of many lists. I don't know if he's at the top of mine, but he's there, close. Others would be Bob Ufer, who announced for Michigan, who made a 40-0 game sound like 28-27 with a minute to go, and somebody driving down to win the game. He was that good. There are many announcers who are so good that forget about the game. You've got the game because of the announcers. I have sections in my collection of Larry Munson and John Ward and Bob Ufer. Those are three of the more present announcers. John Ward doing Tennessee and Bob Ufer doing Michigan. I have people, as I said, around the country. Person in Michigan tape the Bob Ufer games, etc., etc. Let me talk about the documentary. And this trailer that you saw, tried to hear anyway, and you must, if you care anything about the Miley collection, or about what I've done or anything, and I'm not bragging about this because it's Wes's deal. I don't know how they could have done a better one. To tell you about what they did, he spent 4 separate days in my house asking questions. If you watch the documentary, especially the first of the documentary, my voice sounds like I'm sick. And the problem was that it was a question that was asked late in the second day. I just absolutely had lost my voice. Karen, my daughter, calls us every night to see how we are. And she called that night and she said, "Dad, are you sick?" I said, "No, I just lost my voice." And it was that way for about a week. And I finally got it back. I talked to Wes Eichlers a couple of days ago about the documentary. I had watched it, he had watched it, of course. And he was disappointed because there were a couple of mistakes in it. And I knew where the mistakes were. I saw that also, so we compared it and so forth. And he's going to correct it. He's trying to correct it anyway. But the reason that it got that way was the speed in which he had to do it. He came, I guess Sarah Whitmire, who was in charge of the TV station here, the NPR radio and PBS TV, she and Wes do a lot of documentaries together. Wes was good on sports, so anytime she has sports, she has Wes help her. Well, they had about less than 2 months, I'm going to say closer to 1 month, to put this thing together because they wanted to get it out so they could have something like this before this meeting, before the ceremony. And I asked Wes, I said, how long is it going to take you to do this? Before I knew when he had to get it done. And he said, usually takes us about 6 months to do a documentary this length. So there was no way for him to do the documentary in the speed that he had to do it and have all the double checking that he needed to do. So it's not his fault, it's not anybody's fault, it's just the fact that they had to do it so fast. And he did, with the speed that he did it, he did a wonderful job. Again, it's amazing. He and Dana Benbow did an article in today's Indianapolis Star. Jenny Rudovich, she did a television piece on Channel 13 NBC in Indianapolis, and of course Hodson, what's her first name? Yeah, Julia Hodson did the first article on me and did a wonderful job too. All of the people from Indianapolis that did work with me were with me because of Vic back there, who just asked the question, and he is the one that knew these two, and he said, you need to get together with these two people, they're just wonderful people. They were not wonderful people. They were well above wonderful. I don't know what word comes above wonderful, but they treated me like a king. And in fact, Dana, when she left, she came out Thursday, she had to get it done too before. She had a tight schedule. She writes books and she writes sports newspaper articles for the Indianapolis Star. And so she needed to get it out before this meeting. She thought the meeting was, she didn't know when the meeting was. I told her it was on the 16th. She had already made an appointment to see me on the 18th. But she said, you know what, I didn't know that your ceremony's on the 16th. I have to have this done before. Can I come out on this Thursday? So she came out last Thursday and got all the information, spent 3 hours with me getting a bunch of information, a bunch of stories again, as Wes will tell you. And Wes will tell you that he had to leave about 50 or 100 of my stories on the cutting room floor because he didn't have room for them in the 30 minutes. So Dana, unbelievably, after she gotten all the information from me, I was leaving, she said, you know what, I'd like to write a book on you. My wife, Carol, who's not here, we do miss you, honey, I hope she's listening to this. She told me several times when I was coaching Little League Baseball, I coached Little League Baseball for 16 years at Platter Park in Evansville, and I would come home with unbelievable stories about what the kids said and what they did. And she would constantly tell me, you gotta write a book on this. I said, look, first place, I don't have the time to write a book, and the second place, who would buy it? And so I don't know if Dana's going to write a book on me, but I will guarantee you that I have enough in my sandbag to really tell a good story. Okay, any other questions? Okay, ready? Okay, that'll be it. Thank you very much for coming, folks.
And thanks to all of you who attended today. Again, we're very grateful to John and his family and all the folks that he mentioned, Len, all the folks that were involved in making this possible, and we look forward to this being the home of the collection for generations to come. So let's give John another round of applause. Be sure to pick up a flyer with the QR code on it for the documentary at the table as you walk out. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week, and go Hoosiers.